Hi, Charlie Vann here with Lego artist Nathan Sawaya. Nathan, how are you this day?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm super excited because I got to see the Art of the Brick exhibit here in Dallas at the Perot Museum. And I have to say, it's by far one of my favorite exhibitions to see at a museum. And I love Legos. I saw it multiple times. Just geeked out going through that. I love one of my favorite parts was you had these paintings and you recreated the paintings out of Legos. Just talk about that process of creating this exhibit and like getting the inspirations and ideas you had for some of these models.
Yeah, I mean, this exhibit started over a decade ago and it's come together and it's grown piece by piece, of course. So when it started, it was only like a dozen sculptures and now it's several different galleries. And one of the galleries is an art history gallery where I've taken on the masters from art history and tried to replicate them, but use only Lego bricks. I've tried to do the paintings in like one-to-one scale and the sculptures as much as I can in one-to-one scale and use different techniques. So you mentioned the paintings. Sometimes you see these paintings and I've done a technique where I'm doing just like a straight building process to create a mosaic that's like flat on the front. Other times I'll have the studs coming out, the little Lego bumps coming out. It's just different, different styles to emulate different painters. The rest of the exhibition has original works of art. It has some representational pieces like a Lego dinosaur skeleton that's
Oh, I
about
love
20
that one.
feet long.
I love that one.
Good. I appreciate that. And just a wide variety of things. So it's been a project of mine that's just grown and grown, and it's now 5 touring exhibitions that have been touring the globe.
Well, there's one that I always see on social media, people's social media, is the bench, the life-size human Lego model where you can take a photo with. I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
see it on everybody's social media. Like that is like the picture.
Yeah, it was a fun project that I thought, how could we make it a little more interactive?
Mhm.
So I got these park benches and I built figures sitting on the park benches. So there's a variety of different ones. There's different color figures sitting on different park benches, and I've sent them all over the world. And yeah, it's a great opportunity for people to sit down next to a life-size figure built completely out of Lego, and take a photo or do whatever, talk to it, have a conversation.
Well, you even showed the one where the chest is being ripped up, and for those that
Yeah.
will listen to this audio, it's actually there's a model of it behind you on top of your shelf. How long did
Right.
that take to make? Because that is really cool, and that like just captures the eye to this exhibit.
Yeah, that's become one of my more iconic pieces,
Mhm.
and that came about after months and months of work. And it's a life-size figure tearing its chest open with thousands of yellow Lego bricks spilling out. And it kind of is one of those things that more people contact me about that sculpture than any other work. And people have different interpretations of it. Some people think it's about, giving everything you've got. Some people think it's just about opening oneself up to the world. Kids just love it because there's guts spilling out everywhere. But the guts are Lego bricks, that very toy they have at home. So they connect with it.
Well, one thing that I've noticed about your artwork, I feel like it all has sort of kind of metaphoric to meaning, like through the darkness, I think is really daunting. So when you're creating that, where does the idea just spark in your mind? Is it like, are you driving, you're like, ooh, that would be really cool. So where do you kind of capture some of these ideas?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes that's all it is. Walking around, you see something. Some sculptures, like one night I was watching my friend perform on stage, and she was singing, and I got an idea, and I jotted it down on a napkin right there. I don't know if you have seen this sculpture, but it's her face on a musical note. So the bulb of the musical note is her head, and then the stem is an actual musical note, like a quarter note. And that just came to me one day. But having multiple exhibitions is a blessing
Mhm.
because I get to travel a lot. I get to experience different locations, different cultures, different people, and I can use that for inspiration as well. So it's not just personal experiences. It's gathering all different ideas. I carry a sketch pad with me. I jot down ideas as I go, and just see what comes out.
Well, that had to be cool for her because it's one thing to be a bobblehead or a pop vinyl, but to be Lego art, I think that's every kid's dream, you know?
Right, right. Yeah. I hear you. Yeah, I've done a few figures over the years. Like I built Colbert out of
Oh,
Lego
yeah, I've seen
when
that. Yeah.
Stephen Colbert had his show on Comedy Central. I did that for him. I've done David Letterman. I've done a random assortment of people over the years.
This got to make for the best like Christmas, birthday gifts too. How many gifts have you given out as far as like artwork or wedding portraits?
Yeah, when I was starting out, I got a lot of commissions like that, and they'd be like, can you do a wedding portrait for me? Can you do my kids out of Lego? Can you do my dog out of Lego? I still get a lot of dog requests, and I take them on from time to time because it's fun. I prefer to do the 3-dimensional, but a lot of people just want like a 2-dimensional portrait of their dog or kids
If
or
you could do one of
whatever.
Chewy, this would be perfect.
Oh, Chewy. Yeah, for sure. I'll put it on the list.
No, that's really cool. That is really awesome. And I mean, I'm sure when they receive that, they're just so ecstatic. I look at like Legos and I see it as something that is going to keep going through the generation. What do you think stands out the most about Legos and why it's been so preserved?
Well, I think there is that thing about this toy. It is the world's most popular toy, which is crazy because it has been around for so many years. I think the brick itself, is 60 years old.
Yeah.
And the toy company was started in the 1930s. And yet, generationally, this toy can be passed down and it still connects with the bricks. Like not just that your father had or your mom had, it snaps together with the bricks your grandparents had. Like what other toy can still keep working on the same level that it was, from the very start? And so that helps it not just, extend through generations. It also makes it very universal. Like I've taken my exhibition to places where I don't speak the language, and I'm talking to folks who don't speak my language, but we can connect through Lego bricks, right? Because it's a system that allows you to connect even though you don't speak the same language. And there's something very special about it.
Well, I remember in a past interview you said like you're about 5 years old, right, when you had your first like Lego set. What was that Lego set again?
It's a universal set where it just came with a wide variety of pieces, some doors, some windows, some tires. And it was even before minifigs came out. Like it was that's how old I am. So it was just one of those sets where you could build whatever, your imagination allowed you to build. And that's probably what started me down this path.
Well, and you grew up in Oregon, correct? In a small town. Is Vanita?
Yeah.
Bonita, I know it's the Fern Ridge Reserve out there is very popular. What was your childhood like just growing up, and what just attracted you to the world of art in general?
Well, my folks, my parents really encouraged creativity. That was an important part. It was just my sister and myself living out in very rural environment. And so we really were each other's playmates. There weren't, kids, the next kid over was a couple miles away. So it wasn't like you could just, run over and see your neighbors. So it was a lot of time just, using creative toys like Lego bricks, like Play-Doh, like Tinker Toys, things like that to create our own environments. I think there's a story I've told a lot of times where, I wanted to get a dog and my folks said, "Oh, you're not going to get a dog." So I used Lego bricks to build myself my very own dog.
That is awesome.
But that is one of those things, as a young kid, I realized, wow, this toy can be used for other toys. If I want to be a rock star that day, I build myself a guitar. And that was the kind of opening the door into that creativity and exploring art in a ways. I mean, I was definitely always drawing and painting as a kid, and using Lego kind of fell in line with that.
Now, where you want to decide, you know what, I'm going to go the lawyer route. I'm going to go into law. And was there anything from that field? I feel like a lot of jobs can somewhat correlate together. Anything you took from law that maybe helped you going into the
Sure.
art world?
Yeah. So when I got out of college, I really didn't have faith in my art, and there was societal pressures to become a professional. And I was living in New York City, and I decided, you know what, I'll just go to law school. In a way, it was like putting off a decision for 3 years, right? Because I'll just continue going to school for 3 more years. So I went to law school in New York, and I still had these artistic urges. I still wanted to be creative, but I pursued law for a while, and I actually was a lawyer. I was practicing law. I was doing like Wall Street stuff, mergers and acquisitions, securities law. And I would come home at night and want that creative outlet still.
Mhm.
And that why eventually I would go all the way to pursuing art full time and leaving the law behind.
Well, one thing I've noticed that's interesting with a lot of art or some artists and entertainers. I was just listening to Matthew McConaughey's book on Audible Greenlight, and that's a field he wanted to do originally before he discovered he wanted to do film and acting was law. Where do you think the law lies in a lot of artists and entertainers where they think, oh, this is the right field first before they actually realize, no, arts or entertainment is where I belong?
Oh, I mean, law allows you to think differently.
Mm.
You learn how to think very critically. And you'd asked earlier about, does it transfer into my art world? And I think it does in many ways because you approach problems in a different way. And I think that's why a lot of artists maybe, you know, if they're risk averse, the law is a perfect place for them because the law is about minimizing risk. That's what you do as a lawyer for your clients. You find a way to reduce the risk, especially as a corporate attorney when you're working on business deals. How do I reduce the risk for you? And so a lot of people who may be adverse to taking on big risks will go to the law because it's a safe haven. Oh, you go for 3 years, you come out, you get a job, you're a lawyer, you get your JD degree, so there's that aspect, but it also allows you to assess risk in a very critical way, and that's been something that's been very helpful to me, especially when I'm working with different clients and what are the risks. Also, I mean, just from a practical standpoint, if I'm negotiating with a
Mm.
client, I don't have to farm that out to a lawyer to negotiate. I can just directly negotiate, which saves time, which is a big deal, especially on commission projects where you have a client that's in a hurry on a deadline. You don't need to farm the contract out to a lawyer to review and then go back and forth. I can just negotiate that straightforward, get it done, and then move on to the actual creation. So there is a business acumen that comes with being a lawyer.
Well, you mentioned also something else important about how, as being an artist, you didn't maybe believe in your art enough. And I feel like that's sometimes an ongoing thing with a lot, whether performance or visual. But where was that one moment that clicked in your mind where you're like, oh, you know what? I have something here. I just got to stay persistent, patient. And what advice can you give to a fellow artist?
Yeah, I mean, the moment for me, I mean, it was a very distinct moment. It was, I had put a website together. It was my virtual gallery. I was showcasing work. I was getting commissions. I mean, a lot of commissions. So I was working a full day in the law firm, all day, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, doing deals, coming home, and then taking on 6 hours worth of Lego commission. And it was a moment in there when the website crashed. I was getting a lot of attention online. The website crashes from too many hits. And I realized this is it. There is a market for this. I do not have to be a lawyer. I can be an artist full time. And I took that risk. I left the law firm behind, went for it, and really tried to make a go of it, of being a full-time artist who was experimenting with Lego bricks. And that moment for me was very distinct. It just happened. I decided this is the time, and I went to my bosses and said, I'm leaving the law firm, and
That
they were
definitely had to
confused.
feel like a big high risk, but you seem definitely like confident in that. And did you feel like, man, this is unique? I'm not seeing a lot of people do this. So did you feel like that unique idea to pursue this could become something?
Yeah, I mean, back in the day when that happened, there was not a lot of Lego art in the world, right? I mean, when I went to a gallery and talked about Lego art, they kind of thought, well, that's what I see at a toy store, right? It's a big castle or a train set. Like, no, there's something else to this. So yeah, there was this moment when I realized, because there's not a lot of other people doing this, there's a real shot here to do something crazy and really, groundbreaking in a way. So that was part of it, but it was also scary. It was also very, very risky because I really didn't know if I could make a living. I was going from this lifestyle of a six-figure salary as a lawyer to who knows, and it really was something that this is my passion. I want to pursue it. It's not about making money. I want to follow my dream and create. And so it was a very big shift mentally, but it was important that I made that shift because it really helped me get to that point where I was finding happiness, and I was where I wasn't finding that, with money or being a lawyer. It was about the art. So that was an important shift mentally to happen for me to get to that point.
And it
Sure.
kind of, I guess, goes along with that saying, enjoy what you do. You never work a day of your life. I think that's what that saying is, where you just enjoy doing that. So
Yeah,
where it doesn't
that is
really,
part of
I mean, does it ever feel like work to you? I mean, it looks like obviously a lot of hours put in, but does it ever
it.
feel like a day of work? You get to play with Legos.
Yeah, I mean, it is a fun job. I get to play all day. I get to create, but it's also running a business.
Mhm.
It's running my own business. So I don't have the backup of some company behind me. Speaking of backup, I let my legal license expire so
Mm.
that I wouldn't have that safety net. Uh, so I really was committed to doing this, and if this wasn't going to work, I was going to find something else. But it is running a business that requires a lot of that part of a business that's not so fun, right? I mean, even negotiating contracts isn't fun. No one really loves that portion of it, or at least I don't love that portion of it. I
Yeah.
want to just be doing the creation, but the pros outweigh the cons. I mean, I've said this before. The worst day as an artist is still better than the best day as a lawyer. So
There may be some lawyers out there like, you know what, I should have gone the art route after watching this.
right.
But I mean, I think that plays to like if you have something that you're really passionate about and you think you could do something with it, to just go for it. Luckily today, I think right now is like a great time to be an artist, especially with like social media and Instagram in particular,
Right.
just to have that platform. I mean, what do you think about like pursuing art now in 2020?
There's never a wrong time to
Yeah.
pursue art, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all about art.
Mhm.
Art is more important now than ever. I've often said art is not optional.
Mhm.
I have this. I started a foundation a few years ago called the Art Revolution Foundation, and one of our tenets is that art is not optional. And
Mhm.
we've done research, and we see that when kids are exposed to art in school at a young age, they have better graduation rates, higher test scores. And so if there's art in the curriculum, that makes for a better student. And so I truly believe more art needs to be in the world. And this is a great time. If you have thoughts about, exploring being an artist, go for it. And it's not even, like taking and throwing away your 9 to 5 job and
Mhm.
becoming a full-time artist. It's about just exploring more creativity in your life. And that could be just finger painting with the kids. That could be just a little more doodling and starting it off. You know, I encourage people to explore art. I don't think the approach always has to be, throw away your day job and become a full-time artist, because that's not even what I did. It took me a while to get to that point. I spent a couple years of that transition, finding a way to get to that point to really make that decision of like, okay, here we are, here's the moment. But it wasn't just that day I made the decision. It had grown over time. And I'd honed my skills. And that's one thing you got to do is practice and hone your skills so that when you get to that point when this is the day you're going to make the change, you're ready to make that change. You have the skills and the backup and the resources or whatever you need to do it.
I just always love, discovering an upcoming artist and their work, whether it's canvas, painting, sculpting. I just think it's so cool. What is something that you always look forward to that is when you're going into a gallery, something that normally catches your eye? They're like, I can't wait to see this.
Well, I mean, look, I love using uh, alternative media, and I love when other artists come up with things. In fact, when I was starting off, there's an artist, Tom Friedman is his name, and he does art. He has done sculptures out of toothpicks or plastic cups or sugar cubes. You know, things you wouldn't normally associate with sculpture, and yet they are brilliant pieces. And that was kind of something that I looked to that encouraged me. Like, if he can do that out of plastic cups and other household items, I could probably make sculpture out of Lego, and encourage me internally to really pursue it. And so that's something I'm always looking out for and always excited to see. Uh, when you see things that are unexpected in the art world, it's just a moment that's hard to describe.
I'll tell you one actor that surprised me. I did not know he was an artist is Jim Carrey. Like his illustrations,
Oh, yeah.
his drawings are phenomenal. I mean that's it's just you never know who is an artist. Like there's so many artists like behind closed doors, you'd be surprised.
Everyone's an artist, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's an artist. It's just how much they focus on it.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. Everyone has that inside them, but you just have to, pursue it and see what comes out.
Do you feel like it could correlate to like, like obviously stand up is an art form, but how like people are like kind of scared to get on there and put themselves out there because you never know if you get heckled. You feel that with like a lot of art, visual art too, that maybe it's like some people are a little worried that what are people gonna think?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've never thought of that analogy, but it's actually really accurate. That's really smart because there is that moment where you don't even want to put it out there. You hesitate to put it out there because you don't want to be heckled.
Mhm.
And I've been heckled. I've been heckled many times. I've done like live events where I'm building and people come up and be like, "Oh, couldn't get a real job, huh?" Things like that, or just mock what I'm doing or what I'm creating or stuff. And that's part of it. And you have to, I suppose, do that to kind of build up that resistance. Just like if you're doing stand up, you gotta get out there on stage and build up that same type of strength to be able to handle that sort of thing.
Well, that's when you give that person a paintbrush or some Lego, say, well, you build something just like a comedy. Why don't you come up on
Right.
this stage and tell some
Right,
jokes?
exactly. Yeah, here's some bricks, buddy. See what you can do. Right.
What was that first project, that first Lego project that you made, and you were like, "Ooh, this is really interesting." When did you wanted to put on display for everybody?
Yeah. I mean, it started out very simply. Once I rediscovered Lego as an art medium, I was still a lawyer, but it was a point in my life where I was trying to explore different creative uh, types of sculpture. I was using things like candy to do sculpture, and I thought, oh, one day I just thought, well, I'll use this toy from my childhood, and it started off very simply. I was just doing representational work of things in my New York City apartment. I built an apple out of Lego. I built a baseball. I'd look out the window and see the bridge, and I try and build a bridge out of Lego. That type of thing it wasn't monumental. It was just kind of honing my skills. And then I started doing some portraits again, self-portraits, because I was a very easy subject matter to have access to, and I was doing that. It was just kind of gradual where I realized there was more and more to it. And as I started doing larger pieces and more human forms, that's when it really took off.
How long does that the human form usually take?
Oh, it depends. Any sculpture is going to depend on size and complexity. A life-size human form is going to take up to 2 to 3 weeks,
So
and you're looking at 20 to 30,000 bricks.
what's been like the quickest turnaround where someone's like, we really need this like ASAP?
Yeah, no, I've banked out projects, in less than 24 hours, but they're not of the scale or the detail of some of the other works. It just depends, and everything's different. Some things that are really big come together really quickly. because maybe they're really simple in shape. Some things that are tiny that you would think, there's not much to it, but to get that detail, it can take forever. It can be very frustrating. So it varies from time to time. It's tough sometimes because clients might want something, or a museum will say, hey, we have this opening, can you fill it quickly? I get frustrated because I want to be able to do everything and take on different projects, but it just varies from time to time.
Now, when you're in the zone, when you're creating or building something, are you listening to music? How do you kind of get focused, but also at the same time kind of chill out too while you're doing these creations?
Yeah, it depends. I usually have music on for sure.
Mhm.
Music is one of those key things where when I'm building, I kind of go into a trance when I'm
Mhm.
really, as you said, in the zone, and music helps me get there. And it'll be different for different projects. Sometimes I need something really upbeat. Sometimes it'll just be classical. Sometimes, whatever's on the radio that day. It really changes. I'll mix it up. It's weird.
Well, when you were making Through the Darkness, were you listening to instrumental?
Was it a little dark and gloomy
Yeah.
for those?
Some Danny
um,
Elfman. Yeah.
that came over the course of a couple
Mhm.
years, so it did change from time to time, and a lot of those pieces were based on some personal experiences, some very,
Mhm.
I struggle with depression,
Mhm.
and that's a lot of where those pieces come from. And so, you know, do I associate a specific piece of music with a specific piece of sculpture? It's hard. It's hard to make that, because even if I'm working on something that is dark and gloomy in a sculpture, I might need, some pep in my step that day, and I'll listen to something else. So, um, it sometimes is bubblegum pop,
Hey,
just
that's
to
fine.
just to,
Put some
just to get
NSYNC
me going.
on, some Backstreet.
Right? Exactly.
New
Who
Kids on the
knows?
Block. Well, and I think that's also good. Like if you're working on something that's a little daunting, maybe not have a daunting song on, maybe kind of go in that happy place, but at the same time, digging deep and creating that emotion that you want.
Oh, absolutely. And I've got all my playlists that mix it up as well. I can just do, if I want just a Brit pop day, I'll do that. Very 90s Brit pop. That takes me back to when I was just starting out, this being a lawyer, and that type of feeling will take me to a certain place. But other times it's just a mix of that, maybe some dark pieces, maybe some light pieces, maybe all sorts of stuff in there. And I just go with the flow.
What is on your playlist right now, just in general?
I'm listening to holiday music. I'm in
Oh
the
yeah.
mood for the holiday.
Thanksgiving passed, so we can
I'm
do that.
all exactly. I need a little something like that. It's been a weird year for everyone,
Yeah.
obviously, and so I'm looking forward to these holidays, just to have something bright to look
Mhm.
and do. And yet it won't be the same as years gone past. But the music kind of takes me back, so I'll go with that.
What has been, you mentioned this year, obviously it's been tough for everybody, but it's been also a time about adapting. Where have you found that you had to adapt the most?
Well, a lot of my work is exhibited in touring museum
Mhm.
shows, and that industry kind of went away this year because
Mhm.
a lot of museums were unable to open. I mean, I only have two exhibitions going on right now, and that's fortunately because parts of the world have adapted to this pandemic and are now reopening in places, and so it's been an interesting year of finding ways to showcase my art without the museum, and that's doing a lot of online talks. I've done a
Yeah.
lot of talks where I've been asked to do a lot of talks with companies where they'll have me come in and do creative building sessions, which is something that I hadn't done a lot in the past, but I've been doing a lot this year, and really taking this time to explore my own art,
Mhm.
and uh, and really just create some new stuff and have fun, and do some, I don't want to call it spring cleaning because it's been all summer and all year really, but I've been doing a lot of sorting and cleaning, and I have a warehouse that has 10 million bricks in it,
Wow.
and really cleaning that out and reassembling how things are organized so that when the business starts picking back up, it'll be a little more efficient.
Is it hard to part way with anything when you go in, you're cleaning, you're like, oh, I've had this for so long.
Yeah, of course, like anything.
Hmm.
I destroyed some sculptures
Oh,
really because
wow.
I was like, "Oh, this, because what happens as an artist is you create something, you're like, mm, didn't make the cut. I don't want this to
Yeah.
see the light of day.
Yeah.
But I also put a lot of time into this, so I can throw it out. So you just store it.
Yeah.
And I felt like, okay, this has been in storage a couple years, 5 years now. It's not going to see the light of day. We can part ways.
I
And
was
and that was very cathartic.
I was thinking about that earlier. Like, I feel like in all art mediums or, there's something you created that you're like, not right now. There may be a
Right.
time for this, not right now. How many of those sculptures could you say off the top of your head that you have that we haven't seen that are kind of waiting in the wings?
Oh, I mean, looking around, there's dozens. There's dozens. But that's part of the experimenting, right?
Yeah.
It's playing around. It's there's probably enough for an entire exhibition of
Yeah.
stuff that's never seen the light of day. I mean, I've been doing this for so many years now. Things just collect. I see things over there, back there that, oh yeah, no one's ever seen that. And you know, maybe one day I'll put it all together in some sort of retrospective. Like, here's some stuff that has never been seen. I don't know.
Sometimes it'd be cool to create just art for yourself, just to kind of have like,
Well,
oh, that was cool.
and that's how the exhibitions really started, because I
Yeah.
was taking on the commission work to pay the bills, and the stuff I was creating for myself were these strange pieces, a yellow figure tearing its chest open, that type of stuff. That was just for me. I wasn't building that for anyone. I was just experimenting and doing that for my own emotion. And that's what eventually became the exhibitions, because I took all those pieces that were just for me and put them out in the world to see how people react to them.
Did you ever keep any of your like early reviews of some of your artwork?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I have boxes of newspaper clippings, and some of them are pretty harsh. But I will say this: those harsh reviews were important. I mean,
Mhm.
one, they were taking it seriously. They
Mhm.
were not just dismissing it, even though the review is harsh. It at least was taking it and accepting it as an art medium to review it, and I'm fine with that. That's part of growing. Plus, critics, what do they know?
Yeah. Once again, it's like, why don't you step in? Try, but
Right,
but at least they.
right.
I'll say this from the positive. At least they reviewed it. They took the time, and that means you get that exposure. But there's always where there's art is subjective, as they say, and where there's someone that may be like, there's someone that's going like, what, that inspired me. That motivated me.
And that's part of being an artist, I think, is the role is to inspire others. So many folks have contacted me over the years and said, I've seen your exhibition, it inspired me to do this or that. And that's amazing. And it's not just, oh, it inspired me to go build with Lego, although there is a lot of that. But there's folks who have reached out and said, you know, I was a dental hygienist. I saw your exhibition. I read about your story. I was inspired to leave my job and become a full-time violinist. And I'm
Oh,
like,
nice.
that's amazing. That means I'm reaching people in all walks of life. It's crazy.
Well, like, not to get cliche, but life is short, and just being able to like find that thing that you're passionate about. I mean, I know for my dad, so speaking of law, so his dad was a judge, and his dad really wanted him to be a lawyer, and he really is like, even had this whole conversation actually with Nixon about law school back in the day. And he ended up going the probation route, being a probation officer for over like 30 years. But now he's a teacher, and he loves teaching. He's passionate about education, history, and he's been doing that 2005, 2006. So this whole new career, but he's finally doing something he really, really enjoys. So sometimes it's just taking that moment to finally like, you know what, this is what I need to be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's finding that, and it is a tough thing to do sometimes. And
Mhm.
sometimes you find it and you don't know how to get there. And that's why I say you don't have to do it overnight. You can
Mhm.
make a plan. You can you know, you don't have to just leap off the cliff without looking. I've compared it to, okay, I get it. You're in a 9 to 5 job and you want to be a rock star. Great. Take some guitar lessons first,
Yeah.
because don't just go up on stage.
Yeah.
Learn to sing, learn to
You're going to
play
be
an
an air
instrument
guitar band.
before you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right.
Well, what are some artists up and coming or just who are out there that you're taking notice of that you really enjoy?
Well, let's see. These days, it's been interesting because I see crazy stuff online, and I wish I could go see it in person.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been to an art gallery, an art museum in over a year,
Yeah.
and so I haven't really connected with new pieces as much as I want to. Online is one thing, and you may be able to attest to this. When you see my art online, it's one thing, but when you go and see it in person at the exhibition,
it's stunning.
There's a different experience that happens. And so I need a little bit more of that. Right now, I've been connecting with actual other Lego artists, actually. A lot of people. Did you see the show Lego Masters?
Oh, I love that. Actually,
season?
a friend of mine is a contestant on that show, Crystal Star. I love that show.
Oh, Crystal, yeah. So I was a consulting producer on the show.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And it was a great show. We really had a lot of fun putting that together. So I've been connecting with some of those contestants because they are exploring their own creativity, their own art these days. And that's been very inspiring.
The Star Wars episode was so awesome. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but just the Lego build. Oh, it was so cool.
Yeah. That TIE fighter. Oh, you saw the Han Solo in Carbonite? Remember when that dropped? That's sitting right over.
Oh,
it's
nice.
Literally 2 feet away. Yeah. So
you're in a magical place.
It is kind of crazy here. I mean, there is a life-size statue of myself out of Lego over there. There's there's a Venus de Milo behind us over there, and then there's an entire orca, a life-size killer whale out of Lego.
Wow.
The back side of the studio. There's just a lot going on. One of my recent projects was working on endangered species and recreating life-size versions of many different endangered species, then taking the sculptures, we photographed them in their own environments. And so that was a lot of fun. I traveled a lot around the world. This was a project I've been working on for 4 years. So now in the studio, like there's a flock of flamingos over there. There's some sea turtles and orca. There's a white rhino back there. There's all sorts of, it's a whole menagerie of animals.
That's really cool. That is really neat. Well, we were mentioning real quick to Star Wars. I enjoyed the holiday special on Disney Plus, the Lego Star Wars. Did you get a chance to check?
Yeah, I saw. They did a great job. They pulled in a lot of significant moments from all episodes, every movie, and we're able to play them out in Lego. It really makes me think, they should just make a Lego Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it would do so well.
Right? You've played the video game, the Lego Star Wars video game, maybe?
Yeah.
And there's a sense of humor there that they make fun of both the Star Wars aspect and the Lego aspect that I think could translate really well, and just do it beat for beat, the entire trilogy or all 3 trilogies. Anyway. But the holiday special was a lot of fun.
A Lego Mandalorian would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I could see that happening too.
Well, I was a big fan of the Batman movie a lot. I thought that was great. And of course, you've worked with Will Arnett. Such a funny guy.
He's great. Yeah, he's just hysterical for sure. So yeah, the Lego Batman was a lot of fun. Lego movies were, a lot of fun. I got to consult on the first one barely. Which was fun. But I met Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who wrote and directed the first one and have produced some of the others. And they are just great guys. They are just fantastic guys and so inspiring.
Well, Nathan, I want to thank you for taking your time here with me today. Finally, what is next for you? And also, where can people find you?
Well, what's next for me is more bricks, more building. I don't love to talk about projects in the
Yeah.
future because as a lot of artists, until they're ready to share, they don't want to share.
Yeah.
And I always point people to my Instagram for
Mhm.
previews. At least you know what I'm working on currently. So that's just at Nathan Sawaya. That's my Instagram. And you can always check it out there. My website's brickartist.com, where it has a schedule of where the exhibitions are. And the Art of the Brick exhibitions are touring the globe right now. So just check it out where they are, and hopefully they'll come to your town soon.
Well, we definitely look forward to it. I know I'm looking forward to it, and congrats on everything again. And once again, such an awesome exhibit with Art of the Brick, and thank you for
Hey,
taking the time.
thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun.